Hello again and welcome back. Let's continue our story. The Balkans had earned a grim nickname by 1914, the powder keg of Europe. This small region in southeastern Europe, where the Ottoman, Russian, and Austro-Hungarian empires met and competed, had become the most dangerous place on the continent. Multiple crises had nearly sparked wider wars, and everyone knew that the next crisis might be the one that finally exploded. Yet life continued, diplomats negotiated, and the great powers hoped that somehow they could manage the tensions just one more time. In Serbia, a secret nationalist organization called the Black Hand, or Unification or Death, plotted in the shadows. Founded in 1911 by Serbian military officers, this group believed that violence was justified to achieve the dream of a greater Serbia that would unite all South Slavic peoples. They recruited young men willing to die for the cause, trained them, and waited for the right moment to strike at the heart of Austro-Hungarian power. Their leader, Colonel Dragutin Dimitrijevic, known as Apis, was a man who believed destiny called for dramatic action. The heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne was Archduke Franz Ferdinand, nephew of the aging Emperor Franz Joseph. Franz Ferdinand was a complicated man, disliked by many in Vienna's court, partly because of his marriage to Sophie Chotek, a woman considered beneath his station. But he held progressive views for his time, favoring reforms that would give more autonomy to the empire's Slavic peoples. Ironically, the very reforms that might have satisfied some nationalist demands made him a target for extremists who wanted not reform but revolution, not autonomy but independence. In June 1914, Franz Ferdinand planned to visit Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia-Herzegovina, to observe military exercises. The date chosen was June 28th, a significant day in Serbian history. It was Vidovdan, St. Vitus's Day, commemorating the 1389 Battle of Kosovo, a defeat that had ended Serbian medieval independence. To choose this day, this place was either remarkably insensitive or deliberately provocative, depending on one's perspective. Either way, it was a terrible decision. When the Black Hand learned of Franz Ferdinand's planned visit, they saw their opportunity. They recruited 6 young Bosnian Serb assassins, most still teenagers, filled with nationalist passion and willing to sacrifice their lives for the cause. The conspirators were given weapons, pistols, and bombs, smuggled from Serbia across the border into Bosnia. The plan was simple but desperate. Position themselves along the Archduke's motorcade route and strike when the moment came. On that sunny morning of June 28, 1914, as Franz Ferdinand and Sophie rode in an open car through Sarajevo's streets, the first assassin lost his nerve and did nothing. The second, Nedeljko Kabrnovic, threw his bomb at the Archduke's car. But the bomb bounced off the folded roof, fell into the street, and exploded under the following car, wounding several people but leaving Franz Ferdinand and Sophie unharmed. The motorcade sped away to safety, and it seemed the danger had passed. The remaining assassins, scattered along the route, assumed the mission had failed. After the morning's events, Franz Ferdinand insisted on visiting the hospital to see those wounded by the bomb. The route was changed for security, but in the confusion, the Archduke's driver was not properly informed. As the motorcade proceeded, the driver turned onto Franz Joseph Street, the original route. When officials realized the mistake and shouted for him to stop, the driver braked and began to reverse. By terrible chance, the car stopped directly in front of a delicatessen where one of the assassins, 19-year-old Gavrilo Princip, stood dejected, believing the mission had failed. Princip could not believe his fortune. The car carrying his target had stopped mere feet away. He stepped forward, drew his pistol, and fired twice. The first bullet struck Sophie in the abdomen. The second hit Franz Ferdinand in the neck, severing his jugular vein. Sophie died almost immediately, slumping onto her husband's shoulder. Franz Ferdinand remained conscious for a few moments, whispering, "Sophie, Sophie, don't die. Stay alive for our children." Then he too died. 2 shots, fired by a teenager armed with a cheap pistol, and the course of history pivoted. In Vienna, news of the assassination brought shock but also something else, a sense of opportunity. Many Austrian leaders, particularly Chief of Staff Konrad von Hotzendorf and Foreign Minister Leopold Berchtold, had long believed that Serbia needed to be crushed before it destroyed the empire from within. Now they had their justification. But there was a problem: Russia. If Austria-Hungary attacked Serbia, Russia would likely intervene to protect its Slavic ally. And if Russia intervened, Germany's alliance commitment meant a wider war. The question became, would Germany support Austria-Hungary, even if it meant a general European war? On July 5, 1914, Kaiser Wilhelm II and German Chancellor Theobald von Bethmann-Hollweg gave Austria-Hungary what became known as the blank check: unconditional support for whatever action Vienna chose to take against Serbia. Germany's leaders believed that Russia, still recovering from its defeat in the Russo-Japanese War and from internal revolution in 1905, would back down rather than fight. And if Russia did fight, well, some German leaders thought a preventive war now was better than waiting for Russia to grow stronger. It was a catastrophic miscalculation, but in that moment, it felt like decisive leadership. The fuse was lit. In the weeks following the assassination, as you rest and let these facts wash over you, diplomacy would fail, ultimatums would be issued, and the mobilization schedules we spoke of earlier would begin their terrible, unstoppable work.